everyone, and welcome to Esports Venus Live International. So today I don't have my colleague Carmen with me, but of course she's going to be really regretted because we have an amazing guest today. So I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Yasmina, an intellectual property lawyer, but you're not here for me. You're here for our amazing guest, Mark. Welcome.
Thank you for having me on, Yasmina. Appreciate it.
Really appreciated that you can came. That's amazing. And actually, we have another person from another country and another, actually, continent. That's amazing.
We're all the way across the sea. I apologize for making you stay up so late, and all the viewers out
No,
there
don't
are
worry,
also.
don't
But
worry. We are really excited to have you here, really. And actually, there are a lot of people saying already hi, so that's really nice.
hello, people.
So, for those of you who doesn't know you, can you, Mark, introduce you a little bit about yourself? Who is Mark Cai?
Sure. Yeah. So I have some background within the gaming space, starting off as a content creator, doing mobile gaming videos on YouTube. That's where I started. Just always being a fan, always liked playing video games. And so growing up, I was a gamer. Never really had a console, so I've only ever had mobile
Okay.
games or PC games. But with that, I was able to transition that into a career within gaming. So with doing YouTube videos, I learned I like to talk a lot. So I did commentary for esports tournaments and then utilize that on my resume to actually get jobs within the community. So I've been working at this company called PowerSpike for the past 2 years, doing influencer and esports partnerships, connecting brands with particularly Twitch streamers and making those cool brand activations happen. And then I've also interned for Shell and NVIDIA. So that's really where I sit in the esports and gaming realm.
Well, that's amazing, actually, and a lot. So, but first, I wanted to just to focus. How was the first moment that you decided to get inside this industry? And also, of course, because you didn't tell me that you don't have any console, I would like to know who was the game who make you decide I want to get into sector. Yes.
Yeah, no, so I'm a fake gamer in that sense. But so I started off within the esports industry probably back when I was playing mobile games just for my YouTube channel, specifically a series by Gameloft called Modern Combat. They had Modern Combat all the way
Okay.
till Modern Combat 5. And so I played all those games pretty heavily on my phone just as a little kid. And I really enjoyed those. And so there was a time where there were tournaments happening and they were actually hosted by ESL, the big tournament organizers that everyone knows about nowadays. And so with that, I was able to participate in one of them. I did a weekly cash cup. I think we won maybe like $50. And after
Oh
that,
my
I
God, but
said,
at least you
yeah,
did
I know
something.
we got something. But that was really the game that got me pushed forward. And I realized I'm not really good at gaming. I'm better at talking. Right. So then I was like, okay, let's use this YouTube commentary skill that I've gained over the past few years and actually put that to talking about other people playing the video game. Right. If I play the video game, I understand it, the technicalities, the maps, the differences of each player. And I can use that to actually create a cool storyline for the viewers who are watching these esports tournaments. And so that's really what got me involved. And then wanting to actually work in this space, I went to my first ever esports LAN tournament in France. Fun enough,
Oh,
wasn't in
really?
the US. And it was a CSGO tournament, and I really enjoyed watching that. That was back in 2019. So I'm very late to the game. I've been watching for much longer than I actually have attended any of these events because everything's been virtual. And so that's really what pushed me to actually work in the esports space. So really just mobile games from the start.
I see it. That's pretty excited. And I wanted to ask you because I know that you have worked, actually, your CV is amazing because you have been working in PowerSpike, Cell, NVIDIA, and Midgame, I think. And I wanted to just to know how this different field help you in your career. If you feel that help you to develop your channel and your personal background here, I just wanted to know.
Yeah, so I'll go chronological order. So mid game was the earliest. That was my first year of college, and I did that after I finished my first year. So between my first and second year, it was an interesting remote internship where I was helping doing product development and kind of initial influencer marketing. So reaching out to streamers and testing out a product. We had a product called GA, which was basically a Wikipedia but voice activated. So the main offering of the product was if you didn't want to, if you did like playing games, but maybe you took a little bit of a break and then you want to get back into it, and you didn't want to watch all the update videos that all the content creators have released, or you didn't want to do research on your own, you can jump right into the game. And there was a voice activated bot that would say, oh, if you ask a question like, what is this new feature in the game? It would just read it back to you in your headphones. So that was the product, and that's what we were trying to push out to influencers and things like that. It was really interesting because we spent a lot of time on naming. So that was a huge part of the of the job. And but my favorite part was really just reaching out to influencers and seeing, oh, who's
Okay.
interested, how can we improve this product, kind of doing that external relations part of the job. So I think that really helped me solidify like what I enjoyed about working, which is, working a little bit internal to any company, a little bit external to any company. And then after that, I moved on to Power Spike, which I started in December of about 2019. I just applied because it didn't require a bachelor's degree and I was still in college. So I
Oh
was
my God,
like,
I admire you that you're still in college, really.
yep, we're still here. But that was a bit earlier, and so I just applied, and luckily I've been with the company for about 2 years now. I think that's where the biggest growth for me has come from, just working with really big influencers agencies as well, like Loaded and UTA and Evolve Talent Agencies. So pretty legit esports and gaming agencies, and working with pretty big influencers and brands as well. Been happy enough to work with some of the esports talent as well as just pure gaming and live streaming talent. And so I think that's been a really good experience with contract negotiations. How do you really build out these relationships and keep them going? And then in the middle of that, I really wanted to understand the corporate side. So I went over to Shell to intern for them for a summer, helped on a marketing project and then also an esports project with them, and kind of setting that strategy. And so that was really good for me to just learn like, hey, how does a corporate environment work? Albeit it was during the pandemic, so not necessarily what a normal corporate environment would be
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
but still a great experience. I think I had one of the best managers I've ever had at that internship. And then I moved on to NVIDIA this past summer, where I was working with influencers as well. Not really in the gaming and esports space, more on the AI, data science, and healthcare area, which was a good mindset shift for me, because you take those two influencers very differently, because they just have different thought processes, they have different jobs, and they don't make content the same thing. One of them is a lot less consumer friendly, one of them is a lot
Mm.
more consumer friendly, so you have to approach it in different manners that way. So slight learnings from each of them. Overall, most of them have been in the gaming space and influencer space as well. So um, taking good learnings from each of them.
Oh my God, yes, because I feel like you feel because you're an influencer in somehow, and you have developed all this strategy, all this trademark by yourself, but your own brand, and at the same time you can help them because you know the necessities they have. So it's amazing all the experience, and I didn't know about the healthcare. That's really nice. It's really
Yeah,
nice
it's
and different approach of completely.
mhm. Yeah, there's just different platforms that some of the influencers operate on, right? Where I think in the gaming space, we're really focused on Twitch and TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, and those platforms just really aren't that popular in other industries. So you really have to adapt how you approach it, and you have to learn new platforms for that matter.
No, that's really interesting, Mark. And then the other question that I wanted to ask you, because of course you're still telling me that you're in college, and are you studying marketing computer, right?
That's correct.
So in all, because we always ask these arguments here in Spain that sometimes we feel like the college degree doesn't help us at the end when we start with our career, professional career. So I wanted to ask you if this career help you in somehow to develop your project, your own brand with your professional career in esports.
Yeah, well, I think more so the marketing side has helped me than the computer information systems
Okay.
side. Computer information systems, more of the coding, more of learning Java, Python, HTML, CSS, things like that, and actually developing apps and software. I think it's good to know that, but I don't really use that when I actually outreach to influencers. That's more the marketing side and being able to understand from a brand perspective what are the metrics they look for, how do they segment and target various things. So basic marketing concepts, I think, have been very extremely useful for me. And then just implementing those with the actual knowledge of the industry. So gaming and esports, live streaming, content creators, things like that. Just applying those to an industry has been really great for me. But honestly, I think being in school has really helped. I think it's not necessarily the content that I've learned while in school, but just the actual ability to work while I'm in school. I think it impresses a lot of people, and I'm just like, I'm just doing something I enjoy. And people are like, I didn't do this during school. So I've enjoyed being in school and doing this, as it gives me kind of a little bit of school I have to do, a little bit of work I have to do. Neither of them is 100% all the time, so it keeps my mind on its feet.
Yeah, I noticed that you have your mind perfectly. I- So the thing, I want to ask you an informal question, of course, because I know you are into mobile games, especially shooters. So I wanted to ask you if you can give us some tips, especially for those who doesn't have an experience as myself. I know you have a video about it, but if you can give me just a quick tips for someone who wants to start here.
Sure, yeah. So, one tip I mean, I give to people, and this is controversial, but I plan an iPad. I don't plan a phone actually. And so
Okay,
whenever I go around, I always have a pretty big tablet, and to me that's still mobile. You can still move it around pretty easily, and you can pull out a backpack. It won't fit in your pocket, but to me it's still considered mobile. Now, if you look at esports tournaments, I think Call of Duty Mobile they banned iPads. You can't use an iPad, so to them it's not mobile. So it's really subjective where you go. In some other esports, an iPad is okay. So you really have to just understand which esport you're talking about. But I use an iPad. It allows for a lot more space and ability to see who you're trying to, take down and what the objectives are. But the big tip I always give to people is try and use four fingers instead of two. What we like to call a claw grip. So you're basically doing this instead of doing this when you hold your phone like this. That's what most people use for your phone. A lot of people use four. Some people use six fingers. And so you just have more things that you can do with your hands. You can be shooting and aiming at the same time instead of just doing one. So I think it's really useful to have that ability. It's really tough to start using more of your body to actually play a video game because most people aren't used to using four fingers, six fingers, eight fingers
that's
when they're
true.
playing a video game. But it really helps. So try to use four. That's what I say for shooters, at least four.
I will try that because you tell me that, and it remind me on experience because for a second I have a friend who is amazing playing it, and she has like the fourth thing,
Yeah.
trying to combine all the combos it is, and I say that's actually working. That's
Yeah,
much better.
people have very interesting setups. I know someone who has like a five finger setup, so they've
Oh
like
my
three
god,
fingers on their right finger on their right hand, and then two on their left, or six, sometimes even seven. And I'm like, I can't do seven.
I
I
can.
can do four, maybe five if I really tried. Like probably five would be my max, right? So it's the different people have different strengths.
So I will try four. And okay, now we are going to focus on your career, and I know that you're actually on known as Coolmark. So I wanted to tell us a little bit about this project, how you start, and of course, my question: why you choose Coolmark?
Yeah, sure. So the name Coolmark, as yeah, I started this channel in 2012, 2013. If that gives you any context.
I will give.
So I was 12 years old at that time. Didn't know what I was doing. I sometimes still don't know what I'm doing, but I believe my first username wasn't actually Coolmark. It was that MC4 dude because MC4 was the game I was playing, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be synonymous with this video game that I really like, and key part of marketing, don't brand yourself with something that's going to be irrelevant in a couple of years, right? Like don't brand your channel name off of a game. So I've learned that now. But um, I think I just thought I was cool. I think my original name was Awesome Mark, and then I was like, this doesn't roll off the tongue. This too many syllables here. So I just thought of a synonym for awesome, and I thought Cool Mark, and I thought it looked nice because the capital C has a good little kind of encapsulation, and then it goes all lowercase, and the letters are kind of lowercase, and then the K at the end marks the end. So I don't know. I just like the way the letters look in the actual name itself when spelled correctly. I don't capitalize the M in the middle. Some people do that, and I'm like, I don't. You don't need to know that Mark is my name. It's just part of the thing. Um, but I've been with this channel for about 8 years now. Started in 2013 and been doing it off and on since then. But mainly been doing it on since 2015, 2016. I started off with an iPod Touch 5th generation, so that was came out in 2012. And I was trying to find ways to jailbreak my iPhone to record my screen and upload videos in that sense. And so once I actually got computers, I was able to, record with an Elgato and actually get better equipment to make the whole setup better, make the viewing experience better. And so that's when I started editing videos. And I think I've never really gone viral. So that's one common misbelief is like to be a big content creator nowadays, you have to go viral. I think that might be more true, but I never went viral. I just continued to upload and my videos just slowly got more and more traction. There was never one huge takeoff video. So I enjoy that. It means people have stuck around and it means I haven't just been explosive off of one random thing.
That's nice. Because I was going to ask you, is do you notice in one moment if it was one video that make you viral? But in this case, it's more like you were doing one by one videos development, and started to grow. So I imagine that a lot of your audience see you at the beginning, so they remind you how you grew up.
Hopefully, yeah. I think that's how I just approach most content in general. I don't go for virality content, like even on LinkedIn, right? I just post a lot. I don't necessarily post the most amazing stuff, but I post a lot, and that's how you get your brand name out there. People just got to be consistent. It's like with habits too, like with running. If you want to run every day, run like 10 minutes a day. You don't have to run an hour a week all at once. You just run 10 minutes a day, and so that's kind of how I approach a lot of like content endeavors and just yeah.
No, but I watch your videos. Are amazing, really. It's like cool, Mark. It's really cool.
It's a different persona online. I try sometimes I've gone into interviews and like, oh, I've seen your YouTube channel. I'm like, I hope you haven't seen all of it because there's definitely parts I don't want to be online, but I just keep it up there because it's funny. So
Because we have to keep it.
yeah, I got to keep
So,
it professional.
so the next question that I wanted to ask is because I noticed that you started to do it on Twitch. So, for example, here, if you wanted to know, here in Spain, normally a lot of YouTubers decided to go to Twitch, especially for the conditions, because it's in order to get more audience, and especially because YouTube here in Spain is not so well. The tax financiation is not so well. I know that, for example, in other continents, like for example in your country, it's more actually you can live with that. But here not. So I wanted to ask you if this was for the reason why you decided to move on Twitch, and what did you notice?
Yeah, so for me, I've always known that YouTube's been much better for mobile gaming. I have my theories for this, but that would be for another time. But YouTube has always been better for mobile gaming, just in terms of getting views, going viral, growing a audience base. The mobile gamers have always been on YouTube more so than Twitch, and so I started there, started live streaming, but I realized my audience base was not very deep. Whenever I would stream, it's just they would ask for the same thing over and over and over again, right? Like, oh, play this video game, play this video game. And as a content creator, when you're siloed to one specific video game or one specific thing you have to do, that's not ideal. You don't like having to only do one thing that makes you popular. It's like, I guess the analogy I give is if McDonald's stops selling burgers all of a sudden, right? They're known for burgers, they're known for chicken and other things, but if they stop selling burgers, Burger King would have a huge spike, right? Or another burger place would have a huge spike because that's what they're known for. And if they stop selling that, right, then people are going to go elsewhere. So I think that's the main issue that I was having. So I wanted to try Twitch because Twitch is huge in the US. It's where live streaming is synonymous with Twitch. You don't associate YouTube with live streaming. At least when I made the switch, you didn't. Nowadays, you might, given what they've done recently. And I thought the people on Twitch just had a more deeper sense, mainly because I think a huge part of my geography or of my audience was international. And so with that, I would say things in English and they just be like, what does that mean? Right. And I was like, okay, well, I want a more American audience who can really understand some of the jokes that I'm making and kind of things that I'm saying and interacting with. And so I continued to upload videos onto YouTube, but I converted the live streams to Twitch because I was like, these people generally are more from America just because Twitch is really popular in the US. And so that was the main thing for me, getting a different type of viewer because Twitch viewers are, I think, have more of an interaction and there's more features for the viewers on Twitch versus that of YouTube. So that's originally why I switched, and it was, I think, good for me to just try different things and have a different YouTube channel or have a different just social media channel to do other types of video games. If I didn't want to do mobile, if I just wanted to do just chatting, or if I wanted to do any other PC game or other types of mobile games, it's a really, in my opinion, a better outlet for that versus YouTube, which really confines you to one specific thing.
Yeah, that's true. And if you can say it in a simple way, like, for example, what is the advantages for you in YouTube and what is the, because already you say some of them, but you have experienced both. So you can say what, for example, if there is someone who want to start in this industry and be a content creator or something, and they decided to move to Twitch and to YouTube, what you say, if you want to do this, it will be this platform for you. But if you want to do this platform will be much better.
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of discussion about creator economy and things like that, right? With the starting your own channel, and if any of you are not familiar, I would give a shout out to Creator Economies. It's a YouTube channel. Definitely go follow it.
Mm.
The CEO of Night Media, who manages Mr. Beast, actually stars on that. But the one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people say you actually have to start on TikTok because TikTok is the biggest discoverability, which is true. You can go viral very easily on TikTok. And now I think the creator economy has shifted so that to become successful, and successful is a very vague metric. You can be successful by having 2 viewers and all of them being very engaged, right? Or you can have 1 million viewers and have some of them be engaged, right? It just depends on how you define success. But in the normal definition of success, meaning more numbers, higher numbers, more views, TikTok is the way to go. It allows you to really just put yourself out there and try a bunch of different things. And if one of them sticks, then hey, there you go. I think the challenge is how do you get people from TikTok over to your YouTube channel, over to your Twitch, right? And so, just to answer your question, basically, YouTube is much better for video on demand, right? VODs, if you want to just upload like a very polished piece of content. I would say YouTube is better for that because they have that little aspect to them. You can upload anywhere from 5-second videos to 40-minute videos, and they can be very polished, very unpolished for the most part. So I think oftentimes YouTube is better for that if you want to like kind of script it out. Twitch might be better if you are simply wanting to do some interaction and kind of have that raw connection with your community. It's a better way to chat one-on-one with them because you can't really chat with your YouTube subscribers. They can comment and you can read them, but it's not in real time. So Twitch allows for that to happen in real time. YouTube obviously is beefing up its live streaming capabilities as well, but it's not necessarily up to par with Twitch just yet. So I think that's something that people have to learn. So I think YouTube is getting up there for live streaming. So we'll see if more people start streaming on YouTube as well as making videos on YouTube.
We will see at the end what happened. But I really like what you say because and there are people who doesn't understand that normally when they say success, you only focus on especially how much viewers you have. But as you say, you can have two of them that are really engaged with you and they will do anything, they will follow you. So that's the most important. So I really like that you say that and you highlight it. And now one, because I think you started so many projects and I wanted to talk about the next project that I actually meet you for this. And you started in 2019. I think this is no, sorry, this week is sport and gaming. And I wanted to know why you started this project, why you decided to launch this. Tell me a little bit about it.
Sure. So I started this back in 2019. It was actually because I had a class that I needed to do an interview for. And so it was like interview managers, and I didn't know a ton of managers. So I went to LinkedIn. I had a chat with a fellow from Steel Series. He formerly worked for Astralis. So I was like, okay, he knows his stuff. He's worked in the gaming space. And he made a recommendation. He just said, have you considered making content on LinkedIn? And that's all he said. And I was like, no. He was like, that might be interesting. There's not many people doing that right now. And so back in 2019, there weren't many. 2021 now, still not that many. So not much has changed. But so it's super easy to enter if any of you want to enter in. But for me, I decided to do that because and it mainly started off as like I was looking back on some of the old ones I was doing. It mainly started off as like an ESPN sports recap. So I would go through every single league and the scores and be like, oh, TSM went 2-0 in the LCS this past week. Oh, Nadas Vincer won, 2-0 in their ESL Pro League matchup, right? Just going over the actual scores of each esport league. And I think that was a good way for me to keep in touch. But I uploaded to LinkedIn and I was like, no one cares about this. No one cares about the scores on LinkedIn unless you work at the actual organization. And so I quickly learned that, hey, you should probably focus on the business side of things. And so I evolved over time. I sent it to a bunch of people for feedback. And I think that's how it ended up to where it is today, which is where I cover mostly, if not all, business, where it's like partnerships and mergers and acquisitions and people changes and any new launches that people have or businesses have. And then highlighting a top 3 story that I think is pretty useful or interesting to me on a personal level. So that's why I decided to create it. And it's gotten pretty far. I don't think it's, like I said, not going hugely viral, but people have seen it. I'll talk to people and they're like, I see your This Week in Esports. I'm like, it does not get very many views. I see the views. It gets like not very many, as I know. But for some reason, everyone seems to know it. So I'm like, all right, I guess it's reaching new people every week. But yeah.
One of them is me, I have to say. Because I really enjoy it. It's a really it's an amazing way to actually have knowledge of all of it. And I know and I like it how you structure it. Like for example, you talk about the partnerships and you talk about the business. For example, you talk about also who has been contracting who, and I really enjoy it a lot. So how do you see this project? You wanted to continue with it? You are enjoying it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually thought about potentially having someone else help me out with it, because it does take up a lot of my time. I do everything myself. I do all the research, editing, recording, uploading, and then actually promoting it out. So it does take a bit of my time, and it's my weekend, so I don't get paid for this at all. And I would love for it to continue to be a resource to a lot of people. I know a lot of business executives actually use it and watch it, so that's good for me to know. But eventually I will have a job full time, and I won't have my weekends always that open. And so yeah, I'm trying to find a way to hopefully keep this going while still maintaining a good work life balance for me and still having my weekends free.
That would be nice to have your weekend free, really. You will appreciate it at the end.
But hope so, yeah.
And the next question that I would like to ask you is because before you tell us like you did some comments about tournaments. So I wanted to know why you decided to launch with this decision, which tournaments you enjoyed to cast, and how was this experience for you, and if you continue with this path.
So it was a combination of actually watching esports tournaments and then just playing video games. And I said, well, there's not many people commentating over the video game I play. So I just decided, hey, I feel like I've watched enough of these commentators to understand how they structure their commentary, what words do they use, how do they pace, what cadence, the emotions. It's all very communication stuff. And I don't study communications at all, but I think it's something you can learn just by watching and practicing yourself. And so that's something I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy specifically the play-by-play commentary aspect. If you aren't familiar, play-by-play is more so the action going on in the moment. And then there's color commentary, which is more of the side commentary afterwards, after that play happens. Oh, how did they set this up? How did this happen? What enabled this sort of thing to occur, right? And so I think they provide analysis, whereas the play-by-play is more of the emotion provider. So that's really what I enjoy about it. It's really nice because it's all reactive. I actually don't have to be very proactive at all. And you do have to do your research as a commentator. This team plays which spot on this map, which player is the one to look out for, how have they performed in the past. So there's a good amount of research you actually have to do. But at the end of the day, people are there for the hype plays. So as long as you can yell into your microphone and make people excited about what's going on in the actual video game, that for me is really exciting. So I love doing that. And just because I like talking a ton. Oh, I think you might have cut out. Maybe it was my. Maybe it's me. I can't hear you anymore, unfortunately. I don't know if this is a me thing or not, but I am unfortunately. Maybe the audience can let us know if it's a me thing or if it's a. Let's check this out. It could just be a me thing. We cannot hear. Okay. Well, audience, how's your day going? While we sort out this technical difficulty, if you can hear me, oh, wonderful. How are you doing, Adrian? How you doing, Isabel? It feels like I'm streaming again.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Now I can. Yes.
Yes.
Was it a plug-in? Was it not plugged in properly?
No, it was actually that I always forget this button. This button that sometimes make me a mistake was like, no. So this thing can happen, but at least
we're good now.
I managed. So the next question that I'm going to ask you, but I'm really happy that the audience answer you. And I wanted to ask you because I'm really curious how involved are the mobile gaming industry, and especially esport. You know that, for example, here in Spain is growing, but not as much as I see in other countries, especially in the USA. So I wanted to know more about how it's for you. Like if you can tell us a little bit, how is the industry in this sector precisely? And okay, by the way, Adrian is saying that he's doing well. Thank you.
I'm glad, Adrian. Awesome. Well, so mobile gaming, it's interesting. I did a whole thesis on this for my undergraduate. Mobile esports specifically, mobile gaming and mobile esports are two separate things I think people have to be aware of. Because mobile gaming is huge worldwide, but mobile esports is not huge worldwide. Mobile esports is very big in Asia, and really not big in the United States. And so my thesis was all prepared on, could it be big in the West? And by the West, I meant the United States. I didn't do as much research on the Europe because I'm not from Europe. So I just decided, let me do something I'm familiar with. Um, and so, yeah, mobile esports is interesting. I think it comes down to a lot of different things, mainly historical, based on what the country has had, right? So if you look to Asia, why is it so big in Asia? Is the fact that oftentimes, or Southeast Asia specifically, right? Oftentimes, the people, one, don't have a ton of space. So if you just look at like where they live, it's pretty packed, and they're not going to have a space for a huge monitor, PC, things like that. Their average income is also lower, so they most likely can't afford that, and they're oftentimes subjected to not great conditions where they live, right? So they really only have like their phone as their own personal device, and so I think that's what, a couple things that put it through. Also, their technology for cellular is very good in those areas. So, a lot of them have 5G because they're so densely populated. You can provide it to a lot of people. Whereas if you look at the United States, there's tons of places in the United States where there's like no one, right? So they're not going to build 5G in the middle of nowhere. Whereas maybe you go to Vietnam or the Philippines, where it's really densely packed, that 5G is actually going to have a lot of users on it versus the United States. So I think looking at that, mobile gaming has not really taken off in the US as well. And small things, just like the fact, if you're in Asia, you take a lot of public transport. What can you do on public transport? You can hop on a video game really quickly, right? Maybe 10 minutes a bus ride or a subway ride over there. In America, you drive everywhere a lot, and you can't play video games while you're driving. So small things like that, you just, that's what makes mobile gaming not really as popular in the United States. And beyond the fact, PC and console games have been widely popular all throughout the United States since the 70s, 80s, 90s, I believe. And so people have been playing those for the longest time, and mobile gaming is kind of getting infiltrated now. But I stand proud as both a mobile and a PC gamer. I play both on a consistent basis. And I think it's good to just know both, because they have very different skill sets. You have to, one of them is a lot more arm movement, and one of them is a lot more finger movement. So it just depends on what you're in the mood for.
No, Annabelle is actually saying the same. Like the good thing about mobile video games is that they are available for every age and the moment of the day. That's true. So
Yeah.
they have certain advantages.
Yeah, it is available for anyone, and I think that's what's made it so popular in a lot of other countries. I think in the U.S. it's a lot of older folks maybe play a lot more casual games, whereas a lot of younger folks play more competitive games. And so I think that's maybe where the disparity comes through. Versus in other countries, you probably have older people also playing somewhat competitive games. So it's a cool thing to notice as well.
And Mark, because you are doing your thesis regarding this issue, of course, I want to take the advantage. So, do you think in the future it's going to be better and it's going to increase, or what do you think it will be necessary to this mobile gaming esport competition to growth? Because of course we are seeing an increase in here, and actually where I come from in Spain, but it's true that still it's not so much. It's, as you say, it's exactly the same. We are starting to see the advantages of this sector, but of course we need I wanted just to know how will be possible to grow with I don't know if I'm explaining.
No, yeah, I think for me, the biggest one is a mindset shift. It's less about like any technology. Technology obviously will help, at least in the US. These are all things focused on the United States only. Technology will help for sure, but the technology, I think, for the most part, is there already. It's more so people are just opting not to play. And I think especially during the pandemic, people have resorted to PC gaming, right? Like I interned for NVIDIA. I'm very aware of the fact that there was no graphics cards available. If you're sitting at home all day, why would you play on your mobile phone when you have a huge PC with a giant
That's
monitor
true.
and very good graphics? You can play AAA titles. So I think pandemic has not helped mobile gaming, to be entirely honest, because people can just play on their PC and they're not playing on the go. But I think overall there needs to be a mindset shift of, hey, this is a mobile game. Blech, to like, it's a mobile game. It's just a different game. It's not like a worse version of the game we play. It's just a different game. So I think it's interesting seeing studios like EA. They're making Apex Legends mobile, right? They're also making Battlefield mobile, and so I think Valorant mobile is also coming out. And so that, I think a lot of studios are making really big efforts to actually push these out to those audiences. But I don't know if the audience that plays Battlefield and Apex Legends and Valorant on PC will be the same audience playing the ones on mobile. Like I have a feeling they're going to be different. So it's really just mindset shift, and maybe they'll be open to, maybe my fellow Americans will be open to playing mobile games more.
We hope so. We cross our fingers, and I
Hope
will
so.
hope to see it also in Spain. And also because you have to collaborate with a lot of people and a lot of publishers, and well, yeah, we can say sort of. So I wanted to ask you which one collaboration, the partnership you enjoyed the most. If you can tell us a little bit how was your experience with them. And I know that recently you have one with Call of Duty Mobile, so that would be really nice if you can tell us a little bit about your experience with it as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, for me, like I kind of mentioned it before, but it's nice to have a game that you're very familiar with, but it's also good to just know more. And so I think Call of Duty was a very good integration for me because I'd been wanting to play other types of games, and I think this was a big push for me. I was like, okay, I can actually do this. And so I even not on sponsored videos play a lot of Call of Duty Mobile lately. So I don't know, maybe someone for Activision's watching, but I actually have very been much enjoying the game lately, even when I'm not sponsored to play it. And I think that's just a good thing for me as well. Yeah, working with other folks, I think it's interesting because that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. I, in my day job, am the one outreaching to influencers, and then on the side I'm also the one being outreached to, so it's like a two-way street all the time. I get inquiries as well, and I'm the one also doing outreach. So I think it's good to just continually have the mindset of like, oh, I know someone else is on the other side, this is their job as well. Like if I do well, they do well, and I like relationship building, so I want them to look good, and to them to have a good experience working with me too. So I usually try and be very professional when I work with folks, even just as an influencer. I try to respond emails timely manner, try and give feedback, things like that. But I think it's, it depends on the product itself. I've worked with a company called Vite Ramen in the past, and I still kind of have good relationships with them as well. It's like a healthy ramen brand, and
I love it.
yeah, I was just like, I really like this. I like ramen's one of my favorite foods. This comes purely out of passion, nothing out of business. I just want this ramen, and like I'll promote your ramen for eternity. And they're like, okay, great. And so I think that's something that's just like, not everything has to be for money. Some things can be purely for passion and for enjoyment, and that was one of them. And I think that's honestly one of the most fun ones they have. They still send me stuff every so often too. They're like, "Do you want some packs? Like our new flavors, or we have some new merch, stuff like that." And I'm like, "Great, I'll promote you guys as well." So it's good to have just a solid relationship.
I love it. Actually, I love ramen as well. It's one of my favorite foods, and actually, I search for all the restaurant who has ramen. So it's nice to know this brand.
Is it popular in Spain? Is ramen popular in Spain?
I don't know actually if it's going to become popular. I think because it's my more net side.
Mm,
But recently I see that more and more people are more interested in Japanese culture.
okay.
So because years ago when I was a kid, normally you are a freak if you like this kind of things. So, but now
Interesting.
it's getting better. We have in the cinemas getting anime movies. That's nice.
Well, that's good. I like it.
And another question. So because when you work with a partnership and you wanted to give them some, because you see the two sides, like you have been offering and at the same time you have been the one who have received the offer. So especially the ones of the audience who are maybe interested to maybe do a partnership with a influencer as yourself, which advice that you will give them in order to this brand to approach you, for example, how will be the right approach?
Oh, that's interesting. I think oftentimes just being very upfront with what you want and laying out all the information very clearly. That's something I see a lot of brands don't do. They're like, "Oh, would you be interested in promoting our game?" And I'm like, what do you want the promotion to entail? Like, do you want me to do like a live stream? Do you want me to do a video, a pre-roll? Like, what do you want from me? And then we can move forward. I'm personally, and this is subjective, but I personally like it when you give all the information right up front. It allows me to make my decision more correctly and informed manner. I will most likely still respond to emails and messages and things like that. But I think just providing as much information as you can up front, because that will reduce the amount of questions that the influencer or their agent has to answer, right? And so if you can just give all that to me, how long is this term? What's the exclusivity? What are the content rights? Things like that. And if I can just know that up front, then it helps me make my decision. And having a good product, obviously, if you have budgets to send out product, and I know most companies don't, which is completely reasonable, but I think there's a lot of companies that have that ability to. And so if they can, and they really want to work with someone, going that extra step to actually make it known that they like their stuff. Simple things like knowing what videos they make, like you, Yasmina, you understood that I make mobile gaming. I think a lot of people reach out and they have no clue I do mobile gaming. And so I'm like, do you realize this is not the best? I'm not the best
Wait
person to market
approach.
your product. Yeah. So it's like, just do a little bit of research, very preliminary, like what games do they play? Um, small stuff like that. Obviously, it's tough when you're outreaching to hundreds of influencers because I've been on that side too. But you can take like maybe 30 seconds to just browse through their chat or their past videos and pick something out. So,
And actually, I have to say that Bell confirmed us that Japanese culture is getting but popular, luckily. So I'm really happy to hear that.
woohoo.
So go ahead and ramen for everyone, not only sushi.
Love it.
And well, of course, I want to say the audience because we are not going to have Mark a lot of time with us because he has to leave. But please send some comments, some questions that you make to ask. And now I'm going to start with the last questions that I
Sure.
have prepared for you. So, of course, your future. I want to know if you are involved in any project that you can tell us a little bit about it. If you can spoil a little bit, that would be nice. Or how you see yourself in at least 1 year.
Sure. Yeah. So I do have a project that I'm working on that is pretty exciting for me. I've been working on it for probably the past month and a bit at this point, and it's with a I would say pretty well known esports organization in the North American space. So working with them to create some content, mainly around education in esports. So that's really what I can say for right now. I think it'll be released in a bit. I'm not sure exactly when the timeline is. I think we're working on making a very good product before we have a deadline, which is great. That's also something, working with content creators. If you want something to be really good, make sure that deadline's flexible. So the content creator isn't like stressed to, really, deliver something that maybe it's not up to par. So if it's like a huge activation and it's really grandiose, make sure you have enough time planned for that. But I had this really cool, I think, education piece. It's around video content, which is, something that I think been decent at for the past few years. So that's the main thing. And then just traveling more and more across the United States. I think the US has been pretty open about travel. Luckily, if you're vaccinated with COVID, with the COVID vaccine, but just traveling more to actually meet folks who have talked to online and going to those in-person conferences. I hope we get to do some of those this in next year.
Great, great to know that. I hope the audience follow you in order to know which one is the new project that you're going to start. And I think we have one question here. Do you think there's a game genre with unused potential social media streaming?
Do you think there's a game genre with underutilized potentially? Is that what you're saying? In social media / streaming, I think underutilized, in the sense of like maybe they're not respected as much, would be the fighting games community. They're very, I'm not familiar with the space as much, but they are very, very passionate about their video games. And for the most part, the publishers of those games don't really support them. Am I speaking mainly about Nintendo? Yes. People, those fans really like their esports in their community there, and I don't think have been very supported very well. They've been around for a long time, but they're not very known in the average person's mind. If you think of esports, you might think of like Call of Duty, Battlefield, CS:GO, things like that. You might not think of like, Super Smash Bros, things like that. So I think that one is probably a little bit underutilized and could use a little more work, because people are very, very more than happy to give their time and effort and energy to actually make this scene great. If they had a little bit of support from anyone else, it could go really far because of how passionate they are. So I think that's one of the scenes that could be helped.
And I wanted to ask as well because I want to take the advantage. But how is the situation in the esports sector in the USA? Because we only know here, especially with the COVID situation, if it's getting better, if you see if it's going to be possible to do tournaments, because at least here is starting to, to turn on the machine again,
Mhm.
but slowly.
Yeah, I can't necessarily say about like tournaments and things like that. When I go to tournaments, it's usually as like just a visitor or fan. I'm not on the business side of it, so I'm not sure. I think it's been very tough for them with COVID, and they've been trying to do some immersive experiences and make it interesting for people to watch. And I've been watching a lot of tournaments virtually as well. But I think if you look at like Riot Games and what they're doing with Valorant and League of Legends as well. They're still hosting those in person, but there's just no fans or there's less fans, and they're taking COVID very seriously. So I think that is, kind of a show to say that, like, okay, we can slowly start getting back in to actually having tournaments, maybe less fans, but at least the players have a good experience. And when the players have a good experience, the fans can kind of live vicariously through them. So I think we're starting to get there again. Will some companies not recover? Unfortunately, yes. Maybe they were very dedicated to doing in-person stuff and didn't really happen. So hope to see maybe some new innovations come from that.
I hope so. So I don't know if the audience have any questions more for him.
Bring him on. Well, happy to answer anything, but I appreciate the audience for actually tuning in and being here. Yeah.
I'm really happy that they are as well because I know how difficult it is to manage the time schedule.
Yeah,
So
yeah, if you're up super late and you're in Europe, I respect you because it is like noon for me in the United States, and I made Yasmina and everyone else stay up so late. So thank you,
don't
Yasmina,
worry,
and the whole
really,
team.
really. It's a pleasure to have you here, really. So, well, I can ask you another question, but not related with this book. But if you are passionate about the Japanese culture, do you like it as well? Or do you watch?
I'm honestly, I don't watch a lot of anime. I don't really eat a ton of like sushi or other things. Mainly it's just ramen. I just like noodles. Noodles are my big thing.
I think I understand you as well. I always choose
Yeah.
noodles.
Yeah, and so am I a Japanese culture fanatic? I would say probably not. I wouldn't say I'm a fanatic of any culture really. I like to see what all different types of people are doing. Um, People from Sweden do interesting things. People from Spain and Italy have different perspectives, and same with people from the United States. So I just like seeing how different cultures are. There's not one in particular I'm like they're amazing because I haven't lived all of them. So seeing it from the outside versus living it are two very different things. And unless I could live everywhere, I mean that would be very cool, but also probably very expensive. So
Probably.
probably won't be doing that. um,
So I see that the audiences aren't like here. Adrian is saying that just to want to say that it was great to listen. So I'm really
Thanks, Adrian.
happy.
Appreciate it.
So if there is not any question, I'm not going to keep you here but it has been really a pleasure, Mark, and I hope like maybe in the future to see you again
Yeah.
if possible.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you, Esports Business Live, for having me on. Thank you, audience, for tuning in. And big shout out to Yasmina for actually playing this. She messaged me a bunch of times, and I will not lie, I read them and then didn't respond, and she kept following up, and I was like, thank you. I just forgot. Like I was gonna respond and then just got busy with something else. So the
No,
follow
don't
ups
worry.
are
I understand.
crucial. Um,
Don't worry, because I understand that you're completely with a lot of things. Of course, you tell us in at the large of the interview, so don't worry about it. So I just want to ask you, like, before I say goodbye to the channel, that you stay a little bit longer,
sure.
just to say properly goodbye. And I'm
Sure.
just going to say goodbye to the audience. So we see you in a minute.
Awesome.
So thank you so much, everyone, to watch it. I'm really happy that you came here to listen to Mark. It has been really a pleasure to have it here. Remember that tomorrow we have another colleagues from workers, and we have started all the same all the week with more esports business life for you. Please follow us and try to just like the content. And I hope to see you soon. And it has been really a pleasure to have this interview with Mark. So see you and see you for the next week.